What's going on, man? Rich Crimes. Cristiano Ronaldo is the GOAT. Hello. Z-Boss, what's poppin'? Thank you. Carl, thank you. No, that's not Carl. It's Werner. Thank Werner. Werner von Braun. It's the guy who invented modern rocketry. You probably hear that all the time. I got itis, y'all. Oof. How are you doing it not even looking? Oh! Eventually you know where things are. Alright, I'm tired of commercials. I gotta watch something while I'm playing, guys. I got ADHD. No, they don't. Thank you. Kelly, what's up? Are you to see me? What? See me? Roots me? Thank you. Rick Grimes. No, they don't. they don't put a dent in your head. Thank you, Ivan. Thank you, Ivan. I love this. It's just these commercials. Yeah, it's a rumor. Yeah. Yeah. AKG. I use the Sony's. This Sony makes three. They used to make three kinds of the studio ones. The ones I have, they don't make them anymore. Um, I've got those. Um, it's just like they're Sony Professional. You're not. I mean, they don't. Like I said, they don't make them anymore. I also use Audio Technicas. Audio Technicas are pretty flat. Um, but I also use Vic Firths, which kind of Vic Firths are really sound isolating. But the problem with those is they make your ears sweat. They make your ears sweat horribly. I mean, they definitely they do the job. I mean, they're headphones for drums, but your ears are like, ugh. I don't know if you guys have ever seen me playing drums, but I'm always like when I'm done, I'm like wiping the headphones and wiping my ears. It's bad. Oh, John, yeah. I'm like, okay, guys, and then wiping my ears. How come I don't? Oh, how can I not look at drums? If you keep doing something over and over and over, you know where it is. You know. You know where it is. Brain fart. I was able to play not looking, not having to look. Relatively recently. I never really tried. Outside of doing this, you know, if I'm doing gigs, you know, usually but when I started playing in church, there's like a bass player there, there's a guitarist there, there's another guitarist over there, there's 5 singers, there's a pianist right there, a keyboardist who's one of the singers, and then there's 2 lead singers. You gotta watch all the time, so you don't have time for this. You know what I mean? You gotta keep your eyes on everybody. You're trying to lock in with the bass player, you know, and then the way it's set up at my church is I'm on the end and I'm in like basically a cage, like a plexiglass cage. So with in-ear monitors. So I'm like doing this. You know what I mean? I gotta look and see, okay, who's singing lead now, who's doing this, who's doing that. And then a lot of times there's a screen in the back of the church for everybody who's on stage to look at. So I'm looking at the words, I'm looking, you know what I mean? So I'll say this, relatively, probably like 2 years ago, a year ago. So I was kind of forced into having to look everywhere, you know. And I mean, at first I would kind of miss stuff, and I still do sometimes, but turn this down. You know, but yeah, so you know, what's that? But yeah, so you know, how long have I been playing drums? Probably as long as your dad's been alive. It's no exaggeration. I'm 59. $55 going on 56 years. So I'm 59. You know, so 59 years. As I said, probably longer than your dad's been alive, you know. Yeah. Yeah, bass. I started off, I started off playing guitar, and then it's a long story, but basically I lied to my friends and said I could play drums. I told them I could play drums because I wanted to be cool. And then when I went home, I actually got a bunch of plastic bowls and boxes, and I had a spackle bucket as a snare. Um, and I went in my mom's closet, and you know how they got the vanity hangers. It's like the wood, but there's like cloth over it, and there's a wire going through it, and a wire loops down, and there's a piece of wood. Well, I stole a bunch of her closet, her hangers, and I bent them out, and I took the wood, and those are my drumsticks. And I just learned how to play drums that way. And I literally obsessed over it until I looked up one day, and then I was like, you know, friends would be like, "Oh, you play drums?" And they would come to my house and be like, "You don't have a drum set?" And they see the boxes and plastic bowls and stuff like that, and they'd be like, "Yo, bro, I got a drum set." You know, dudes would get like drum sets for Christmas and then wouldn't even play them. They would just sit in their basement. So they would come over. This guy Tommy Morris, he gave me his old drum set, that he just didn't want to play anymore. So that was my first drum set. And then I'd walk down the street and see pieces of drum sets, and I'd pick them up, and you know what I mean. And then I saved some money and bought some really really cheap cymbals. They were horrible sounding, but they worked. And I just worked. I built from there. I would take like hand-me-down stuff or broken stuff and find a way to fix it and make my own drum set until I finally I had a relatively working drum set. Um, and I just kind of worked from there. I worked on garbage. I played with garbage. It was basically hand-me-downs and broken pieces, and I pieced it together, and I just got so good that um, people kind of were like, "Man, he's really good." So I ended up being better than my peers, and I wanted to play guitar, but there weren't any. There were tons of good guitarists, but there weren't any good drummers. So I ended up being the house drum. I ended up being like the drummer, like the guy. Like, okay, well, he's the guy. Like, and I was in like 4 or 5 bands. I was in punk bands, metal bands, stuff like that. Um, and then it was like I was a drummer without an actual decent drum set. Like dudes would like. I had a lot of friends who just like were rich, just flat out. They were rich, so they would have like a rig. They would have bass over here, guitar over there, with the amps and a drum set. And I just walk in and just play. You know, I'd set it up. They'd be like, "Set it up the way you want," and they had like the top of the line Yamahas or Ludwigs, whatever. Um, and um, and um, and what happened is I became the house drummer until I ended up the house drummer for like 4 or 5 bands, and then I just got to a point where I was doing gigs, and you get older, and you get your little high school after school job, and I got money, and I bought my own drum set. It was a Tama Rockstar. um and I kept the same cheap cymbals because I couldn't afford cymbals, but I just went from there. you know but it's always, I've just, like I said, I obsessed over it to a point where I just got really good at it. So this is just the result of trying to avoid uh social death. It's a really interesting story. So oh, why? Because I'm good at it, man. you know at this point, it's my language. Like, it's just math to me. Bands are contracting drummers now instead of having a regular drummer. What do you mean contracting drummers? Just hired guns? Yeah, I play bass, I play guitar, you know. I've got like um yeah, I got a bass right there. Bunch of guitars, some keys. I got some keys over there. I got an organ right there. I got a little saxophone trainer right here. You know, it's a little trainer saxophone because eventually I want to learn how to play saxophone. I want to be good enough to actually play saxophone. So, but you said, there's a thing, man. What's going on with drummers is this is what's crazy. The common thing. I became one of these guys. I was a hired gun. I got to a point where I got so good where I was a hired gun. I was the guy that you said they would call guys to like bring them in. They've been doing that forever. They would have a band and they would have a drummer and he would suck. So they would hire another drummer to play all the recordings, and the guy who was in the band actually had to learn that stuff. I was the guy that they hired to play on the recordings. So it's been done forever. Like that's been around since music has been around. My dad was what's called, before they had autotune, they had what's called shadow singers. And what shadow singers would do is they could emulate your voice just good enough to when they sang, it sounded like you. And that's what my dad did. Like he was a shadow singer. He's in the New Jersey Music Hall of Fame. I'm originally from Jersey, you know, and then I moved to New York. I moved to New York. And I was playing in the New York music scene, heavily in the jazz scene. And I was bouncing from jazz to hip hop, so it was, you know, there was a lot of overlap back then. There still is a lot of overlap, but that's been around forever, man. That's been around forever. I was that guy. As a matter of fact, we were in we had a band. There was me, my boy Sean, who was on bass, Trav, he was a ghostwriter for a lot of rappers, and my boy Ronnie, who was a percussionist. We were hired guns. And then later on, we got this guy named Jim Farkas, who's a guitarist, and he was roommates at the time with one of the guitarists from Snarky Puppy. I didn't find that out till years later, but the five of us, we formed a band. It was kind of like Jamiroquai, kind of instrumental, funky. Like Jamiroquai is like more R&B. We were like leaning more on the funk jazz side. But yeah, we were like hired guns that decided to, you know, we got tired of being hired for everybody else's stuff, so we formed our own band. So yeah, you know, why do I wear headphones? What do I wear headphones for? I'm listening to I'm watching a YouTube video, you know. You got it, like Jimmy Page from Zeppelin. Jimmy Page was a hired gun. John Paul Jones was a hired gun. Mitch Mitchell from Hendrix's band was a hired gun. Noel Redding was a hired gun, but he was a guitarist who switched to bass. Jeff Beck was a hired gun. You know, the industry has always had hired guns where people would form a band, they'd put a band together, and they would actually, you know, they would hire, you know, studio musicians. Motown had what's called the Funk Brothers, and they were a band that played for every Motown song. They were the house band. They were hired guns, you know. But yeah, it's normal. Like yeah, it's Joe Walsh from the Eagles. He was a hired gun. Before he played in the Eagles, he played in the James Gang. When he left the James Gang, there's a guy named Tommy Bolin. Tommy Bolin, he was a hired gun. Because he was doing rock, but like he was also playing with jazz drummers like Billy Cobham and all that. So, you know, Jimi Hendrix was a hired gun. He was a touring guy. He was a hired gun until he decided to go on his own. So that's normal, man. That's very common, you know, in the that's part of the music industry, you know. Um like it's really common. It's rare that you get a band that are really they're all really really good. Like I'll say this. I think Lars Ulrich, he worked for Metallica. He wasn't really good, you know. But what Lars would do is he was dedicated to his craft and he didn't want anybody to have to play all the stuff because he's like, I got to play it live. So he worked on his craft to get good enough to kind of elevate himself to the level that James and what's his name? Can't remember his name. Cliff Burton and I can't remember what's his name is. Um, but he worked his way up. Because he didn't want a hired gun coming in to to play his parts. So he worked with a metronome. I don't like Lars. I mean, I don't. He's all right. He ain't nothing like I would sit in woodshed to and study. He works for Metallica, but I'll give him props because he earned his spot. He earned his place in that band. Like he worked really, really hard to kind of like propel Metallica. You know what I mean? Like he may be a jerk, but he's a hard worker. But yeah, so it's very common. Like it's kind of like when you see guys, like you see a guy, the guitarist who used to play for Justin Timberlake, Greg Howe. He started off as a guitarist, as a feature guitarist, you know, and then he became a hired gun. He got a gig. He got a gig with Michael Jackson during the whole what tour is that? The Thriller tour. Jennifer Batten, her mom was dying, so she had to go off tour to take care of her mom. So Jennifer Batten actually told Greg, like, hey Greg, you're an insane guitarist. Why don't you I'm gonna recommend you. And she literally gave him, like, because she had all the presets and everything processed in there already, and everything was notated and everything, all of that. So she gave him part of her rig with all the notes and all the notebooks and everything, and was like, this is all you need for that gig. And he filled in, and after that he started playing with everybody. He was, he played with everybody, so he was a hired gun. Now he does his own stuff, but it's common. It's very common, Hmm? Oh, no problem. No problem. Ah, okay. I'm sorry, man. She's lying. This chick is lying. You know what? If I can't, my mama taught me if I can't say something nice, I'm not gonna say nothing at all. So I can't. I can't. Social media. Let me tell you something. People be lying on social media. People be lying. People lie. You got videos. You got, videos of like these guitarists, and you realize this guy, all that stuff is fake. People be lying on social media. They be lying. This is part of why I stream online. Like I stream, so people, if they see my videos, they're like, oh no, I see him live do that stuff. So, when you see a video of mine, you're not going to be like, is he really doing that? You're going to say, no, I've seen his lives. He really does that. He really plays at that level. Like, people be lying, man. The thing, part of the way, like a lot of people might wonder, like, how's he just flowing with all that? One of the things I worked on was, excuse me, playing everything, being able to play everything efficiently and relaxed at the same volume, at the same speed. Play everything. You should be able to play everything at the same speed, same volume. Now, what I do is, I explain this all the time. What I do is I lead my doubles with a single, and then I end it with a single. Single, 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 single. Now, when I play my doubles and I lead with a single, I'm going. The reason why I do that is because it kind of confuses the listener, frankly. And it sounds like this. Which is why I do inverted paradiddles. Instead of paradiddle, 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 I go. Now it sounds like this. So they all sound relatively the same. which is why, which, like I said, it confuses the listener. They don't know, and the reason why I like to do things so people don't, they're like, what is he doing? Like, how's he doing that? Like how his sticking looks weird, or his sticking looks one way, but it sounds another way. Um, the reason why I do that is because you gotta give something for people to want to you gotta create some kind of rewind value. Make it so, okay, people just, they keep going, they're watching your video, okay, push that back, what's he doing? No, push that back, what's he doing? No, push that back, what's he doing? you know it gives people something to kind of like focus on and listen to, and like, wow, like, okay, I don't know how he's doing that. It looks one way but it sounds another way. um Also, it kind of opens the door for a lot of other stuff. It adds to your unique way of playing. You know what I mean? So it adds some uniqueness to what you do. So another way of, just get your hands strong, man. Strengthen your hands. Strengthen your hands. Finger technique. It'll save your wrist, trust me. Henry, what's up? Tyler Shep Shreds, what is poppin'? 804. Yeah, wait a minute. It fell apart, huh? Wait a minute. Okay, well, at least he was able to fix it. Monomyth. I like animals as leaders too. Oh yeah, from the pedal. From the pedal. Yeah, I like animals as leaders, man. Matt Garska, he plays with them. I remember Matt Garska. I remember seeing him on YouTube, bro, when he was like 16. It was like maybe 15 or 16. He was playing. His chops were insane, man. They were just. He was on some grown man stuff. He was like 15 or 16. His father had a page. His father is a ridiculous guitarist. It was his father, some black dude with dreads that sang and played bass. He was alright. He was alright. And it was Matt on drums. And Matt was a freak of nature. And it makes sense that Matt plays with animals as leaders because for a while, a lot of their albums, they didn't have drummers. Like Tosin didn't have a drummer. He programmed that stuff. And Matt just kind of deconstructed it and just he plays it live. But yeah, man. Yeah, Matt's a beast. I've seen Matt, and Matt can do anything. He can do all that ostinato stuff and solo over top of it. I've seen he was like 15, 16 doing that stuff. He was doing all kinds of ridiculous, just insane stuff. He could play gospel. As a matter of fact, when he went to Berkeley, he was about 17, and he was in Berkeley Shed. They had him. He was in the same graduation class as Justin Tyson, who's like a big time guy on the jazz side now. But it was him, Justin Tyson, and kind of like a few other guys. And it was like they were in the shed. They had all their drum sets set up, and the two standouts were definitely Matt and Justin. And just all these guys were here, like right here. Justin was like right there, and Matt was like right there. Matt was on some grown man type stuff, you know. And I remember thinking, I was like, he would, because at the time I was listening to a lot of animals as leaders. And I was like, he'd be good with animals as leaders or Chan. And he was playing with Animals as Leaders, and then he got tagged to play. I think he's done some stuff with Chan too. So, I mean, I saw it, man. Really, really, yeah. Chan are dope, bro. Yeah, Chan are dope, man. Um, hold on, bro. Tyler Shep shreds. Ah. Oh, here we go. Yeah, man, I'm gonna check your stuff out, bro. Dude, I love Chan, man. I like guitar music, man. Like I like a lot. I get inspired by a lot of guitarists. You know, you would think like drummers, but like I get inspired by a lot of guitarists. You know, um, like I end up knowing a lot more about guitarists than guitarists like even know about guitarists. Like I've had guitarists be like, "Man, you know a lot, man. I didn't know that." Yeah, you know, I'm a frustrated guitarist, so um, but yeah, man, I love Chan, man. Um, so yeah, Unprocessed. I've heard of them. John Mayer, bro. I moved down here when John Mayer was like a nobody. You know, he used to play at, I can't remember this place. He would like do open mics, and nobody really knew. Like he was a nobody. He had come from like, I think he's from like Connecticut or somewhere. And at the time, I had come down and he had come to Atlanta just before I did, like maybe a year before I did. Um, and you kind of knew he was gonna be something. You kind of knew. Um, like you knew he had it, man. You knew. But the industry's so fickle. Sometimes it's kind of weird. But you kind of knew, bro. Unprocessed. I'm gonna look them up. I can't read that. Sometimes I can't even read my own handwriting. Um, but yeah. Huh. Thank you, man. Really? I like him. Ah. Yeah. Yeah. Let me tell you about Zach Wild. I'm from Jersey. I'm like from the same, like like maybe a town away from where Zach is from. He's from Jackson. He used to teach lessons at Jackson's Music. It was this big 2-story music store in Jackson, New Jersey. And Zach gave lessons. He gave guitar lessons. His name is Michael Wyneth or something like that. But he played in his band Zy something. It was some Zyrus or something like that. And I remember seeing him at L'Amour's. I remember seeing him at Club Benet. I remember seeing him, and he was clearly the guy. He was clearly the guy, you know. Thank you, thank you, thank you. But bro, Zach was clearly the guy. Like they would do shows, and in the middle of the show, it would like simmer down, and he would do this extended guitar solo that would blow everybody's mind. So it made sense that, and I remember it was on 102. That was a rock station, and I was playing in this band, a Tony Tedesco band. We were like a grunge band. What's grunge? We called it alternative, but it's grunge. It's early. This is before it became grunge, before it became popular. This is how long ago it was. This was like 89. It's like 89, maybe 90. 89, maybe 90. No, it was about 89. No, it was early. I know it was a long. It had to be the late 80s or early 90s. I can't remember. But I remember Ozzy was doing a radio interview, and he was pissy drunk. And they didn't have it. He was saying he was looking for a guitarist. They didn't have it. They didn't have the call on the radio. If they did, we used to practice at this place called the Hot Dog House. I was sitting on my boy Tony's in his van, I'm listening to radio. I think I was high or something like that. That was back in my weed smoking days. So we're sitting there, I'm high, just looking out, you know what I mean? And it's like the summertime. It's about 5:36, no, about 6:30. Sun's just starting to go down. This is the Jersey Shore, so like the beach is right there. We're chilling. I think Tony was going. He went to see. He was doing something, but he wasn't in the van at the time. I was sitting in the passenger seat, and I'm listening to this Ozzy interview, and Ozzy's pissy drunk doing an interview, and he's talking about they're looking for a guitarist. And Ozzy's talking about, they're like, the interviewer's like, well, how's it going? He was like, man, they all sound like Jimi Hendrix on acid. And I was like, wow, that's kind of funny, And then they never played Zach calling in. I didn't hear it on the radio. But it later on got announced that Zach, his name is Michael something or other, but he got picked up by Ozzy, and they were like, how? And they said, yeah, he called into the radio station. And Ozzy just on a whim, somebody was like, yo, come audition, whatever. And he auditioned, and people were like, holy smokes. But yeah, man, I remember him, man. I remember. That was wild, seeing all of that happen. You know what I mean? I feel like I saw like music history. It was pretty wild. Oh man. Favorite Chan song? I don't know, man. It's kind of like Animals as Leaders. I like all their stuff, which is kind of bland. I can't. I had a song in my head. It's an instrumental. It's on like their second album, I think. Oh, I can't remember the name of it. Oh man. It's hard to. I can't, because I really don't. I just like their music. I usually just let it play, and there's certain songs that I kind of pick and I'll just kind of loop. But I do like this one song. Na 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 self in a different light. I love that song. Um, but yeah, man, I like. There's a lot of songs I like by them. Like really, there's they don't haven't made a song that I don't like. Um, Another band I like also. I like their first album, Daughters of Mara. Their first album is good. You may not find it, because they were signed to one label. I found out because I went to a drum clinic. I was a fan of their drummer, and I went to a drum clinic and I asked him the question, and he was like, I told him, I was like, hey man, I love your playing. This dude named Dave Elitch. I was like, hey man, I really love your playing. I said, but more importantly, whatever happened to Daughters of Mara? He's like, label issues. He was like, I'll talk to you afterwards. So this was at Guitar Center. So after that, I had been drinking. So I went in the parking lot and I'm like, I saw him out there. I saw him talking with the drummer, Brand Daler from Mastodon. I saw those two talking. And he's like, yo, man, what's up, man? I was like, what's going on? I said, so what happened? He said, he was like, he said, what happened is we were signed to Atlantic, and then Atlantic, like, they fired the whole staff. And usually when they fire the staff, all of the artists that were signed under that staff get axed. He said, so he asked me, like, where'd you hear the music? I said, on YouTube. He said, yeah, we posted that stuff. He said, you're lucky if you're able to, if you're lucky it's on YouTube because you wouldn't get it anywhere else. He said, we're fighting to get that stuff pushed out, but yeah. I was like, wow. So yeah, and I met him and Brand Daler from Mastodon, so that was pretty cool. I met Snarky Puppy, man. Pedal. I know that name. No. I know the one you're talking about. Yeah, man. But what time is it? 8:23. I'm in Metro Atlanta. All right, y'all. Let me get out of here. Yo, I'm gonna sub to you, man. Tyler.